and welcome into the Bucknuts Morning Five here on Wednesday, April 12th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle, and I'm very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker. J-Book, the spring game is, of course, this Saturday for Ohio State. I'm sure we're going to see a ton of passing, just like we did last year. But this time, the offensive coaching staff has been overhauled. What are you hoping to see from the Buckeyes offense on Saturday, J-Book?
Yeah, I'm not sure they're really going to show a whole lot as far as opening up the entire playbook. But one thing we definitely want to see is what's that passing attack going to look like in the spring game? Is JT Barrett progressing this spring, getting his mechanics cleaned up? Are the wide receivers, are they catching the ball? Are they getting open, creating separation? What are they looking like as far as the deep ball, which is a major emphasis that Urban Meyer has placed on the passing unit this spring? So that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to seeing, is seeing the passing attack. And I want to see what these young running backs are going to do as far as J.K. Dobbins and Antonio Williams. I'm looking forward to how they're going to run the ball. I'm not expecting to see very many carries from Mike Weber. They're not going to risk any injuries there. And then probably one of the biggest concerns overall as far as the offense is the offensive line. Is what is that second unit going to look like?
I was talking to Beanie Wells yesterday. He was talking on his radio show about how his favorite player on the team, most exciting player on the team, is Demario McCall, and was talking about him. And I had a chance to speak with Beanie about, like, are you surprised that he's not playing any H? And Beanie's very surprised about that he's just playing running back. I mean, Demario's taken 100% of his snaps at the running back position. They're using, of course, Paris Campbell as the starting H, KJ Hill as the number 2H, and KJ Hill is also playing the wide receiver spots as well. He's going to move around. Are you surprised that Demario, and I know things can change once the season starts, they could put him in there at H, mix him in there. Are you surprised he's getting 100% of his snaps at running back and none at the H?
I'm somewhat surprised, but if you read some of the reports that's on Bucknuts, Demario did mention specifically that he plans to play both positions this fall, and one of the strategies that they had was he needed to master the playbook at running back first, coming into a Kevin Wilson offense, and then later on this fall in the summer, they're going to be having him moving over to Zach Smith's room and learning that actual H-back, because with the H-back, you're going to definitely have to know how to run certain routes, but you're also going to have that running back element that's tied to it. So for them, from my understanding, they wanted him to at least master the running back position first, then transition over to the slot position so he can get a grasp for that. But you would have thought that they would at least give him some reps in that slot spot. I'm very excited about McCall, as Beanie mentioned, a guy that can be dynamic. I was really surprised when they said he's put on 20 pounds this fall. He was dynamic last year as a guy that was probably 170 pounds soaking wet on a good day. Now you add 20 pounds to him, and if he's able to maintain that speed, he could be an absolute game changer. I know they're very high on Paris Campbell. They're going to do everything in their power to spoon feed him the ball and try to get him as much success as possible. But I think, Demario McCall at that H-back can be just as elusive, just as explosive as Paris Campbell.
They're listing Demario McCall at 195 pounds. I'm not sure if I'm buying that. He doesn't look quite that big to me, J-Book.
Yeah, 195 pounds, that's interesting, because if he's 195 pounds, he's hiding it really well. It'd be interesting because he's a smaller guy by nature, and he's going to get bigger. I mean, he reminds me of the body type of Curtis Samuel when Curtis first arrived on campus. Curtis really wasn't as big as he ended up getting. Demario's not as tall as Curtis, but he does have that natural ripped up type of build. But 195, if he's 195, Dave, then that's a beautiful thing right there, because he's going to need that weight running in between those tackles.
If he's 195, then I'm 175. Anyway, no, I think that's where they want him to be, is 195. That's why I think sometimes with these guys, and I tell you what, Ohio State's roster, it's like more it's a lot more legitimate than most football rosters as far as the accuracy. These guys go to the combine, and a lot of time it's almost exactly what it says. But I think for some of the young guys especially, sometimes it's more of where they want them to be as far as the weight. But I don't think he's 195 yet. Hey, back to the wide receivers though. We've talked a lot about Ben Victor having the highest ceiling. Urban Meyer's even talked about that. But just looking at the 2017 season, who's going to be the guy that's really going to step up, you think, is if they can find a number one receiver? Is it going to be Victor? Could it be Terry McLaurin, KJ Hill, Austin Mack, all these guys, Johnny Dixon? Who's going to step up, you think, when we look back on it? Who's going to be the number one receiver on this team?
I think when we look back, it's going to be KJ Hill. They're really high on him. And I was actually surprised that he's been getting a couple reps at the H-back position as well. As long as KJ can stay healthy, I think he's going to be the guy. Obviously, Ben Victor has the freakish frame and athleticism that you want to see on the outside guy. He has the speed to stretch the field. How Zach Smith is going to develop him is going to be a major question mark. That's a to be determined next to his name, as well as the Austin Mack. I mean, Terry McLaurin, we've seen what we're going to get from him. He's going to be a role player. I don't see him being that dynamic guy that's going to really ooh and ah. He's going to be a guy that gets dirty, gets his knees dirty, and does the small things that count. Johnny Dixon, I mean, he's another guy to be determined. You hope that he can contribute. It's a major question mark on if his knees are going to be able to hold up. But the main thing that I'm looking at from this wide receiver unit, Dave, is how are they going to bounce back? I mean, they're making a huge emphasis. They're putting a huge emphasis on the deep ball, which is one of their lowest percentage throws in the game. How about the intermediate game, which Ohio State has been lacking for the last 2 years? I mean, after a while, teams are going to start giving your wide receivers a cushion or putting a safety over the top to try to eliminate that deep ball. Can these guys run a full route tree is the major question mark. Hopefully Kevin Wilson's offense has a little bit more sophisticated route tree and asks these guys to run a more intermediate game that's been lacking from the offense.
And I think it does, and I don't think this is just me being like a homer. I'll tell you when something is awful with this team. I'll tell you when I think something is great, and anything in between. And you talk about the route tree and just how remedial this offense has been, in my opinion, the last couple of years. I think Kevin Wilson is going to have just a huge effect on that. I guess my question to you is, though, I mean, can it have, because it's almost going to have to be like a 180. I can talk up Kevin Wilson till I'm blue in the face, but do they have the personnel at quarterback, at wide receiver, at offensive line, with Kevin Wilson now? Can they be a team that not only hits the deep ball on occasion, but like you're saying, they have to be more proficient, a lot more proficient as far as intermediate passing, and even, and just swinging the ball to running backs. Do they have the pieces in place to do that right away this season? I don't mean right away like, the first quarter of the first game. But do you think they can do that right away this season and shore up all the things that we've seen that have been lackadaisical from this team the last couple of years?
I'm optimistic about it. One thing that it looks like from spring, they're heavily utilizing the tight ends in Kevin Wilson's offense. So that's something to keep an eye on, maybe an added element. I know it could be wishful thinking. We've all been talking about the tight end for 10 years with Ohio State football. But I'm optimistic that they're going to be able to get that offense squared away. I mean, they have talent, Dave. You have guys that are getting drafted to the NFL. You look at Billy Price. You look at Jamarco Jones on the offensive line. 2 guys that are projected top 5 in their position in next year's draft. Paris Campbell moving to the H, he's saying he's more comfortable. Can he do some damage? I think you have, playmakers in Demario McCall and Eric Glover-Williams who can be a threat. You have tall wide receiver in Ben Victor with Trevin Grimes coming in, and they're expecting him to try to jump into the mix. So they have the talent. The major question mark is JT Barrett going to be able to deliver? Is he going to take those necessary steps that is needed this fall to get this offense humming like a well-oiled machine? I mean, the last 2 years, Dave, we've all watched it. How many times did he have that false hitch in his footwork and he's late on his throws or he's missing balls over top of wide receivers or just not getting it done? So you can have all the schemes that you want to in Kevin Wilson, and I'm sure he's going to try to scheme to these guys' strengths, but it all is going to start with the quarterback. Can he make those plays? And it's going to be interesting to see how much quarterback run they use in this offense. Obviously, that's going to be a staple in Urban Meyer offense, but how much will Kevin Wilson do it, considering that he has experience running several different types of spread? But I like the talent that they have. It's a young talent. It's a raw talent. It's a lot of guys that need to prove themselves, having a bounce back year. The thing that really keeps me excited and optimistic is Kevin Wilson. Time and time again, you've heard, I think Bruce Feldman from Fox Sports said the other day that he's been around the country and his name is being mentioned as the best hire in the off season, and other coaches in the profession is saying that the game comes natural to Kevin Wilson. He can out-scheme you, and he just picks it up naturally as far as game plan and the flow of the game. So that gets me excited.
Those people who are saying that Kevin Wilson is the best hiring in the off season are correct. They can collect their prize here at the door. They're absolutely right. Before I let you go here, Jay Book, real quick on recruiting. Jackson Carman, we all know the story. You know, he's saying Clemson is, you know, first he said they were the leader, then he kind of backtracked just a little bit and said, you know, Clemson is 1A, Ohio State's 1B. You know, I asked Alex Kleitman about this on Monday's show. Many people have talked about it. Curious to get your take. Do you think he's having fun with the process? Do you think he's going to be a Buckeye? Just tell us, kind of your vibe on the Jackson Carman situation.
I'm in the camp that he's going to be a Buckeye. 50. If I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say 55% Buckeye as a favorite. He is having fun with the process. You're talking about a small town Ohio kid. He just visited the national champions who has a brand new water slide or something crazy in their locker room, just unbelievable facilities. And you know, coming off a national championship, you're always going to get that recruiting bump. So I'm not surprised that Carman had an outstanding visit there. In the end, I think it's going to come down to him staying home, being close to his family, being a Buckeye. He's grew up a Buckeye fan. He's been to Ohio State numerous times. But with that being said, they're not going to just lay down Clemson and allow Ohio State to steal him away. It's going to be a battle to the end.
Great insights, as always, from my guy, Jonah Booker. He always comes strong, Jay Book. Thank you very much. And as everybody knows by now, and if you don't, I'll let you know, you can catch Jonah Booker's column every week on Bucknuts. It is Outside Columbus. So thank you, Jay Book, and thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. I appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Let's hear some Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.